Just while the porridge is cooking, it's 5:15 on race day morning. At this point, there's not a lot you can do that's going to make your time drastically better. But there are a few things you can do to make it worse. So have a routine, have a plan. Just think about the process of the things you're going to do and don't worry too much about the result. It's quite difficult, particularly on something where you're going for a particular time goal, but there's no mileage, if you'll excuse the bad pun, in worrying about your time. Your time is going to be what it is going to be at this point. You've just got to do the things you need to do to make your race as good as it can possibly be. In my case, I have porridge for breakfast. I have 2 cups of coffee. I go to the bathroom, very important. I then have a little bit of time before I wander out to the race start, so that I've digested and I'm not going to be seeing my porridge again 10k in. So do these things, have a plan, stick to your plan, do nothing new on race day. That was well timed. Coffee. Okay, so that's breakfast done. I'm just going to nip out and see what the weather's like. It was really windy last night. It's sounding quite calm out there now. So it just comes down to what the temperature is. So it's calm. It's probably something like 15 or 16 degrees out here. I guess maybe if it was slightly cooler, it could be a bit better conditions, but at the moment, it's looking pretty ideal. Okay, well, I'm all set. I'm going to head out the door and wander down to the start line. It's about a kilometre that way. The GoPro is not coming with me today because today is about running and not about filming. But hopefully my wife and or kids are going to take the GoPro and capture some of me while I'm running. So fingers crossed. Let's go get this done.
Come on. Well done.
So that'll be, Kelly was aiming for 2 hours
45. Oh wow. So she
guys are aiming for, what's American, under 3 hours?
just under 3, sub 3.
Yeah.
As long as we hit the sub 3, we don't have to do it again.
So I assume they'll probably be past in another 15 to 20 minutes.
Yay, go Gas, go Gas.
So I finished in 3:01:10 according to the official results. I'm not sure if that's gun time or chip time. I'll have to take a look. In some ways a little bit disappointed, but on the other hand, it's a PB by over 5 minutes and I gave it my all. And so I cannot in any way be upset with it, really. So I'm just going to go and go out for lunch with my team, and I'm going to have a beer. First beer in 3 months, which I'm really looking forward to. And then I'm going to sleep on the plane on the way home. So I'll check in with you in a day or two, and I'll give you a sort of more mature, well-formed opinion on how the race went. We're a few weeks after the marathon now, and I don't think my view has really changed that much. We'll talk a little bit more about that in detail later. We'll also talk about the race itself, and we'll show the Strava and work our way through things that went well and things that didn't go quite so well, unfortunately. And then finally we'll talk about my plans for the future. So we're looking at the Strava of the actual race itself, and as you can see, it's a 2-loop course running around Christchurch from the centre of town, round Hagley Park, and then out through Dallington up to Avondale and then back in. And just looking at the paces, it looks pretty good, and you can see things are looking really quite nice until about 35-36 kilometres, when you can see I start to fall off the pace. So this looks like a little bit of a bonk, some 36-37 kilometres in, and here you can see, yep, I kind of had to give in and have a quick walking break there, and it doesn't get a huge amount better right until the very end, when I start to get something like a second wind, or I'm just able to see that finish and kind of run it in at a reasonable pace. Overall, there's quite a lot of good stuff. If we look at the kilometre paces, we start off with 4:09, 4:10, 4:15. Possibly just a little bit quick. I went through the half marathon in 1 hour and 29 minutes, so a little bit ahead of schedule, but not catastrophic. It's not like I've completely charged out and gone hell for leather from the start. Second half, we can say things keep on going pretty solidly. We're still in the 4:11 kind of region of things, plus or minus. I think the fastest kilometre I had was 29 with a 4:06, which was pretty good. But then you can see 37, 38, it begins to come off the pace. If I'd been able to hold this pace, I probably would have just about scraped in under 3. But then you can kind of see 39, 40, 41, 42, just really not the best, unfortunately. And that was kind of where I lost it. And there were a number of short walking breaks in there. So I guess we now need to think about, well, where did I go wrong? I started out at a sensible pace. I had 6 gels. I had a decent breakfast that day. So it doesn't feel to me like I've gone completely at a ridiculous pace from the start, or that I just didn't take enough calories during the race. 600 is pretty good. And it's quite hard to take more than about 200 or 300 calories per hour when you're exercising at this intensity. So it's probably not me just going too fast from the start. It's probably just not the calories. Let's look at our alternatives. Temperature, and I think we've probably got our culprit here, and I'll explain why shortly. We start off, and okay, that's just when we're all in the corral and I leave the house. We're under 20 degrees at this point. It was probably more like about 17, 18 when the race started, but you can see it starts to increase as we get through the race. Now we finish up, it says it was 27 or 28 degrees. I don't really think that's the case. I think it was more like 23, maybe 24. But there was a lot of sun and it was pretty warm, so it's not exactly ideal conditions. So what other evidence have you got? If we look at heart rate, our heart rate is in the 160s, really quite consistently until we get to well over the halfway stage. We sort of hit the high 160s, maybe about 25, 26, 27 kilometres in, and then you can see we get over 170. This is the point where I'm probably a bit close to my lactate threshold and I'm going to start to tire quite quickly. And yet I did manage to carry on sort of quite well from about 2 hours into 3 hours. And the average for that time was in fact 174 beats per minute, which is my lactate threshold. And as we've seen, you can run at your lactate threshold for 1 hour. So once I hit that point, I was on a downward spiral. It's really quite clear, but I managed to keep things going, and it just about staggers along to the end. And I think we hit 180 at the end when I just tried to sprint for the finish as best I could. So what is quite clear that's happening here to me is heart rate's quite stable. We've got some heart rate drift, and then once we get over this kind of 23 degrees mark around here, you can see the heart rate and temperature kind of increase together. And I think that's really where the problem is. It just got a little bit hot for me on the day, and so I wasn't able to maintain the level of effort. So while maybe things didn't quite go my way on the day, I'm pretty happy with the result. I ran 3:01, not 2:59.59 or faster. Such is running marathons. There are a few lessons I can learn out of this. Maybe there are things I can do to deal with heat better. For example, taking hot baths after exercise is known to improve heat response and heat tolerance, so we'll consider that. Saunas is another option that ultra runners quite frequently use when they're going to run bad water or Western States or another potentially very hot race. So we'll think about those. But I think far more went right that went wrong. And there's a huge amount of comfort to be drawn from that. I know I'm capable of sub 3. We've seen from the results that maybe if it had been a slightly cooler day, I would have got there. Let's train for that next time and let's work with that and see how we go. What are my plans? Looking forward, I'm debating now. I've got a free entry to the Topor 100k in October, which I won through Wild Things New Zealand Trail Running Club, which I'd quite like to do. I'm looking forward to the trails, but on the other hand, there's the Auckland Marathon at the end of October. That's quite a tempting target because it's another reasonable course. The only real difficulty is the harbour bridge, which isn't enormous. You just take it a little bit easier. So I've kind of got to make a decision about that, but I've got a couple of months. And in those couple of months, I am going to get out on the trails. It's starting to be winter, so it's going to be wet and muddy and lots of fun like that, and probably a bit cold. But such is trail running. The major thing I'm looking at is probably a traverse of the Kaimai in the Bay of Plenty. So this is about 85 kilometres. It's kind of high and muddy and lots of fun. There's some huts on the way, so I may do it as a 2-day fast pack, or I may try and do it as a single-day push. I haven't really quite decided yet, but that's quite exciting. Part of the reasoning for that is Mal Law has his new race, The Wild, coming out in December 2022, and I'd like to earn an entry to that. But there's not just the speed and the endurance aspect which we need to consider. There's also the backcountry running. You've got to be able to take care of yourself, and I've done quite a bit in this regard, just not for a very long time. Since I used to do winter mountaineering in Scotland when I was a student, it's been a bit of a while, so I need some refreshers and those skills. So that's probably the next target. Let me know what your plans are in the comments below. I hope everything has gone well with your target marathon, be that Christchurch, be that Hawke's Bay that's coming up in a week or two's time. Good luck, guys and gals. Hope it goes to plan.